Okay, well, good morning, everybody.
Muted.
Applied Days, it's both today and tomorrow. We've got hopefully a good lineup of useful information and presentations for everyone that's attending. This morning, our first presentation, what's new in Inventor 2019, so just like new cars, the new stuff comes out and they call it 2019 almost a year in advance. But yeah, around this time, March, April, May timeframe is when Autodesk starts getting their new software released and out. So I think you'll see with 2019, there's a lot of great enhancements and hopefully a lot of time savers and just some good incentives to move up to that and upgrade to that version if you're not on it already. I know you should actually have it out there right now, but if you look in your Autodesk account, if you haven't upgraded, it's a good thing to consider. So as far as the rest of today goes, if you haven't signed up for the other presentations at 10:15, we'll be going through what's new in Vault and the Autodesk data management tool. And then at 11 o'clock, we'll be going through the AnyCAD Fusion to Inventor workflow, and we'll have an Autodesk representative, Mark Sorrow, that's going to go through that for us. So hopefully some good, it's kind of our technology day today. Tomorrow is more of our services day on the 9th. And at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, if you haven't signed up for those or have seen the schedule yet, at 9 o'clock, we're going to go through some software development strategies that we use here. Obviously, Applied is we're an engineering and IT services company, is kind of our bread and butter. But we also have several other areas. Reprographics, we've got obviously our engineering technology side with being an Autodesk value-added reseller, as well as training on several other CAD systems that are out there. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. But and then at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we'll go through an Impact Dakota presentation on preparing for the industrial Internet of Things. And at 11 o'clock tomorrow, we've got the manufacturing and engineering landmines, how to avoid and overcome those. So obviously, you're welcome to join all 6 presentations if you have the time. I know not everybody does, but feel free to. Ones might affect you there. All right, so with that, we'll kind of move into a little bit of, I know today we're going to talk about what's new in Inventor 2019. I know that's why you've signed up for the presentation today, but I do want to just give you a little bit of, I mentioned we're an engineering and IT services company in addition to a few other things, but I just want to give you a little bit of an overview on that before we jump into the Inventor stuff. So there are 3 pillars. Our top, we think we have the top talent here at Applied: total technology and absolute adaptability. With the many different areas and sets of skills that we have here, obviously we're up to around, I think we've hired so many people here in the last several months. I think we're around that 100 and some employees. We've got 80 plus engineers, several IT software developers, and among a lot of other great talented people here. So any needs that you may have there, I think we can help with. So please let us know if there are any areas where you might need some extra assistance. So now I'd like to just play a little video here and explains a little bit more about an overview of Applied. Excuse me. There we go.
Whether you're talking about a team of people or mechanical parts of a machine, one thing is certain. In order to work properly, they have to fit. A square peg in a round hole? Nope. Oil and water? Not going to happen. At Applied Engineering, it's our business to make sure that we fit with your plans, people, and projects, and in sync with the culture of your company and according to your specific needs. We achieve this by combining top talent, total technology, and absolute adaptability, creating a custom solution just for you, when you need it, and where you need it. Why Applied Engineering? We thought you'd never ask. You see, the speed of business can be a complicated mosaic of custom software, machines, and computers, and sometimes you need a team of professionals to help you navigate it. That's where we fit in. It takes the right people with some of the best minds in the business to help you turn your ideas and dreams into physical products. Our talent will help you implement industry-leading design and manufacturing software, saving you time and money throughout your design and manufacturing process. We reduce the paper pileup by digitally scanning your large format drawings and blueprints and making them searchable and accessible. We install and support industry-leading servers, storage, backup, and networking equipment to help keep your data secure, accessible, and efficient. All while working with our team of engineers and your product development team to design your products fitting within your timelines and budgets. Then, we work with your manufacturing team to improve processes, design tooling, optimize workflow, and increase efficiency. And to increase overall productivity, our programmers will write custom software to replace spreadsheets, secure your data, and give you the information you need when and where you need it. Plus, we won't ever leave you in the dark by using buzzwords or industry jargon that doesn't make sense. We're the only firm with the talent and technology to fit your project, your process, and your culture. Our ability to be adaptable to any work situation allows you access to our technical experts directly, so support for your engineering and technology systems is only a phone call away. We also offer standard classroom training on a variety of engineering software, as well as customized training to fit your unique needs. Visit one of our training centers, or we'll bring our mobile training lab to your site. With IT expertise, software integration, as well as concept, design, simulation, and production consultation and training, we virtually and literally support every facet of your product's lifecycle. Applied engineering is the modern solution to your engineering, design, or IT challenges. Our dedication and commitment to fitting your timeline, budget, and specific project scope is something we stand proudly behind today and have since we started doing business in 1986. We are the only firm with the talent and technology to fit your project, your process, and your culture every time. Visit GoApply.com to learn more about how we can help you or how you can join our team.
All right. Well, thanks for watching that. I believe you may be seen that before too. It is out on our website, but yeah, I like that video. It kind of tells the story of Applied. So, but yeah, now let's get into the Inventor 2019 information that you're looking for. So I guess just a little bit of, I kind of mentioned my name's Eric Miller. I'm the Tech Resources Group Manager here at Applied. My background's in engineering. I guess dabbled in a lot of different projects while at Applied. Primarily, I guess, construction, ag equipment is kind of my background, designing, designing those products. But and since then, I guess a variety of different CAD packages, data management tools that I've either helped implement, worked with the implementation team to and assist each customer in getting those systems in place. So today we're going to talk about the Inventor 2019 professional, just some of the, I guess the three key, core concepts I think that Autodesk really put into 2019 are professional grade, connected, and the Inventor experience. So those are the things that they kind of focused on with some of the enhancements that we'll take a look at. We'll take a little bit at accessing the update. You can get it a couple different ways now. That in the desktop app, if you install Autodesk products, typically you have the option to allow that to install or not. But the desktop app is kind of handy for rolling out those updates. Now with subscription, I think that's another transition a lot of our customers have made with subscription. All these updates are at your fingertips, right as they're ready to go, which is pretty nice. I think the value that's there really comes through in those constant, where Autodesk is always trying to enhance things, take customer feedback, make things quicker, and if there is any bugs, they typically get after those right away and put out an update. So the desktop app is good for that. Obviously, for downloading new versions, you can do that through the Autodesk account as well. So And I should mention there are also some handouts included in the webinar. With the webinar open, you can grab those. I think there's 3 of them, I believe, that are available there. So feel free to take a look at those and download those when you get a chance. So, okay. And I should mention too, there will be some question and answer at the end. So feel free to put in, I think through the GoToWebinar, obviously you're in listen only mode, so you can't ask the question verbally, but if you type it into the box on the webinar app on the side of your screen, I'll try to answer those at the end. Okay. All right, so let's get into, I do have a few slides here to run through. Some of these are from the Autodesk presentation for what's new in Inventor. So if you've already watched the Autodesk version of this will be a little bit redundant, but I am going to get into the actual tool in Inventor 2019 and just kind of walk through a few of some of the key ones. I probably won't touch on every single one. We don't want to be stuck with me here too long, but I'll try to show some of the key things here when we're done. So again, with Inventor, it's built for today's engineering and design professionals. So I think you may have heard a lot about Fusion, lately. That's been a product Autodesk is really developed and brought along kind of through its early stages. So they're constantly adding, good stuff to that, like sheet metal capabilities and simulation and all that kind of stuff. But really, Inventor still is the core product for designing, designing your products today. So I think just all the capabilities that they've added in, hopefully you've seen that a little bit too now with the product design collection, the fact that you can get, Inventor HSM, you can get Nastran in CAD to do your simulations. All that stuff used to be extra. Now it's all built in, and you don't have to use other, open up other programs to do it. It's all, those things are built right into Inventor. So I really think it's always been a good tool, but they've just continued to build on it and make it a more powerful solution for your CAD, for your digital prototyping. All right, so again, I mentioned earlier the professional grade, connected, and Inventor experience are the 3 key, concepts and at the core of what Autodesk looked at with what they wanted to do with Inventor 2019. So let's take a look at a couple of things with the professional, focused around the professional grade. And obviously our products are getting bigger and bigger, well, maybe more complex, not necessarily always bigger, but now we can get down to the nitty-gritty details on an assembly that is as large as the one you see here on your screen. It's and these can get, obviously, if you're dealing with products this large, where there's thousands of components, things, you would expect it to be a little bit slower when you're trying to rotate and open up and do sections and activate certain components within the design. But that's one thing Autodesk is really focused on in this particular version, utilizing the multi-core processing capabilities with the type of hardware that we have today. So utilizing those, they've been able to speed up at least a good chunk of the different things that maybe used to take a little bit longer. So I should mention that, with Inventor 2018, our customers are seeing 7 times faster 3D sectioning in assemblies, 35% reduction in compute time, and rebuilds are faster by up to 80%. So those are some pretty significant increases in just the speed of working with assemblies, with drawings, and then with other kind of complex components. Okay, so we'll take a look at a couple of those too. Those are the ones that it's not that easy to just demo that, because it's just going to work. It'll just hopefully seem faster to you is the idea there. It's not going to look anything different. It's just more of that back end stuff that Autodesk has started to utilize the capabilities of our hardware. Okay, there are some good tools that they put out there in the help, and this can be, that's one of the nice things I like about Autodesk. I tell this to our customers quite a bit, is that I've used pretty much every CAD package that's out there, it seems like, and some are so difficult to go out and find support on and find help on, or find answers that you're looking for. And obviously that's what we're here for that too. Our our tech support team, we've got a handful of people that are on call to, answer any of your questions. So by all means, come to us if you can't, if you need help. But there's so many things that Autodesk just puts out there as far as, you can just Google, how to create I don't know, something like a hole or a surface or something like, obviously those are pretty simple things, but how to create a blend or a sweep or a loft or whatever it is, they'll give you an answer out there. The knowledge base has really been built up well, and so some of the things they focused on recently here, and we get these questions a lot. If with these large assemblies, how can you speed it up? What is the right way to go about it? So they've put out some best practices that are in the help. We've got actually quick links to these right here. So so large assembly modeling workflows using skeleton approaches is always, it's kind of a good way to sort of, put a lot of the kind of the back end details, sort of the framework of your assembly into a skeleton, and then propagate that information down to components. So using that top down design methodology can be kind of useful when you've got these large assemblies. I'm just going to pop open this one. There's just a link here out to so this is just right into the Inventor 2019 help. So obviously this is available through your Inventor application. You can go to the help there, but it is available online. So one thing to keep in mind though too, if you go search for something, just make sure you're looking at the version that you're using. So the Inventor 2018, 17. If you Google something, it might pull up, or you might see different versions out there. So make sure you're looking at the proper version so you get the exact steps that are required. But so this is just some good info on what are large assemblies, what constitutes a large assembly, and that might change from company to company. But using express mode to try to speed things up, using shrink wraps and stuff like that. So definitely a good thing to review out here. Out just from the help menu. Okay. So performance, you may have noticed, content center stuff when you go to add hardware, that uses a SQL database in the background. So it's not like there's just this huge library of already created IPT files for that. It's a database. So you don't actually get the part created until you go tell it, okay, I want, this size bolt, 3-inch, whatever, half inch, whatever it is, you go ask for that size bolt, it pulls it in, creates that IPT file, and then drops it into your assembly. So over time, if you're dropping a lot of different pieces of hardware in there, you might notice that little bit of a delay, as you're placing even the same component. Well, now it does in-memory caching, so that process should all be speeded up, and the IPT will kind of remain in memory. So when you go to the second time, it has to build it again from the database. And then they talk about threads here a little bit too, as far as the display, scrolling in, scrolling out. The threads should display better, and you should see those throughout the whole, throughout your environment. So another thing, and this is something I know a lot of our customers have, maybe dabbled with a little bit, and this is something that I know I had heard, that was coming up through with version 2019 is some enhancements to iLogic. Now, if you haven't dabbled with iLogic yet, I would say it can really be a useful tool. I would say at least give it a shot. If you have questions on it, let us know. We have a 2-day class on that as well to kind of get down the basics. But the idea with iLogic is that you're almost you're building automation potentially into your model, using properties to, drive other things, and whether you're deleting components, adding components based on a set of rules, you can, have your model automatically update. If you think about how we, maybe used to do that before iLogic, it was a lot of API, stuff. So it took a developer who knew Inventor and knew how to develop, using code to be able to do some of that stuff. Well, with iLogic, the idea is it's supposed to be simplified in order for just the regular designer, the regular engineer to pretty much figure it out. When you look at the end result in that little window over on the bottom right here, it does still kind of look like code. You have your if-then statements and ifs, but you don't have to type all that out. You don't have to know the syntax. You can go and click on it, find the actual option within iLogic, and then just double click on it, go find your property, click on that, and then just update the things, within the rules. So you definitely need to be a programmer to do it. I think it kind of has got a better flow. It kind of makes sense. Okay, so the other thing I was going to mention is kind of a key thing here for iLogic is now we can assign names to specific surfaces. So before you had to know, was this, whatever the part was, and then work plane or feature, the feature number or the feature, there's a lot of kind of back end stuff that gets stored with each of these surfaces and references and stuff like that. Well, now we can actually give it a name that makes sense to us. So if you go select a surface within Inventor, go right click and say assign name, you can give it a name that makes sense. In this case, they called it left mounting face. And then when you go into iLogic, you can go to the geometry tab and actually grab that specific reference. And it's not some, weird code or naming convention that doesn't make any sense to us, or that isn't specifically, special to that particular surface. So definitely some good enhancements there with iLogic. Now, I would say not a lot of our customers use 3D annotations, but there are certainly some nice applications out there for that. The idea there is that you're putting your dimensions, your surface, your GD&T, all your tolerances, stuff like that. Put it right in the model so that you can review that in more of a 3D format. So they added some color coding into the 3D annotations now, and within the tolerance advisor. If you activate that, as you start to place, your geometric tolerances and dimensions and stuff like that, it'll start to lock in, certain surfaces. So it'll tell you, in this case, you can see the green surface is fully constrained. If it was yellow, it would be partially constrained. So those colors kind of help identify what still needs to be completed for that part. All right, so let's take a look at some of the ways that Autodesk is making Inventor more connected. And by connected, we mean, being able to share data quickly with your customers, with your suppliers, with other people on your team, maybe at different locations, managers, different things like that. Not everybody needs to have, Inventor installed to be able to take a look at this data. So there's now the ability right within Inventor to share a view, and that sends it out to the Autodesk viewer. You can copy that link, email it to somebody, and that typically looks at the lightweight version of these files, so the DWFs. But the same type of interface works with Vault, works with AutoCAD, works with Inventor. Some of our customers may be using like 3ds Max or Plan 3D. Some of these other tools, it's the same interface where we can store those views up to the cloud and use that Autodesk viewer to quickly collaborate on stuff. So you'll see that within Inventor on the Collaborate tab. The Share View option is there and gives you some nice, a nice kind of screen of, okay, how many files have I shared? And there's typically an expiration for those types of things. We'll talk a little bit more later too when we get into the Autodesk Drive. Okay, but one thing to point out, I guess, so it shows a unique URL with a 30-day expiration. But I just want to kind of mention, cloud, I know it can be a little bit, I don't know if scary is the right word, but it's been around enough now, I think, where we can really come around and start trusting some of those capabilities and trust that it's secure. It's just going to allow for quicker, start to finish on product development and that whole phase of kind of collaborating with whoever needs to see it and give their input on a model. So I would say if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. I'm not saying you need to embrace the whole cloud premise right away, but it's a lot of the industry is kind of moving that direction, and the ability is there. Why not take advantage of it? So I mentioned Autodesk Drive. So if you've heard of Microsoft OneDrive, that's a storage area kind of used for, if you're using the new Microsoft 365 or whatever, some of those cloud capabilities. So Autodesk has their own Autodesk Drive, and that's more for a data storage, a little bit different than Viewer. There's no expiration on the Autodesk Drive. It does require subscription, so this is a subscription benefit in order to utilize that, but you can set up folders, projects, and we'll talk about if you attend the the Vault section next, there's actually, they put a lot of this connectivity into Vault 2 where you can actually synchronize between projects. If you send out, give somebody access to the Autodesk Drive account where they can make changes and then synchronize those files back to Vault. So there's some cool capabilities there. But this is kind of looking at sort of the same thing with Inventor. Okay, so I mentioned Fusion a little bit. That's a product that is starting to really come into its own. I think there's some great applications out there for it. It's good at certain things. I don't think it's, a lot of people ask, is it going to replace Inventor? And the answer I always say is I certainly don't think so. I mean, the Inventor is still it's the more mature product. There's so many different capabilities built into it. It connects with your data management tool with Vault, and and obviously not every company's all about the cloud. So that's where Inventor and Vault really still have a good firm hold on that market, I think. So Fusion it comes with it when you get the product design collections. You have that ability. You can use both of them. And now, like with what I'm showing here on this screen is the AnyCAD capability. We can actually reference Fusion files within Inventor, which is pretty awesome. I mean, if you have a team in Fusion, it's a lighter, it's a less expensive product for other. Maybe you've got some suppliers that are starting to use Fusion. Well, now you can bring those right into your Inventor assembly, reference them in there, and with AnyCAD, as they make updates, they send you the new file. It'll update in your Inventor assembly. So it can be kind of a nice integration there now between those two. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Inventor experience. So one of the new things here I mentioned earlier, I talked about how do you create a hole. Well, that's actually changed now with Inventor 2019. And if you've ever been annoyed, a lot of the products we build have holes for hardware where things are going to mount together, or maybe there's vents or whatever it might be. We're creating a lot of holes, obviously, in parts. So that was one area that maybe you didn't feel like it was that bad before, but when you try this new hole tool, I think you'll realize how much faster it could be. So, or not the new tool, I'm saying the old one. So now we can create multiple holes in the same feature. It creates an internal sketch within that feature. You can create hole presets. So you can just have a pull down list there of different types of holes that you maybe typically create. So you don't have to go back and, create the new style if it's a tapered, or, if it's a, threaded hole, or maybe it's got a countersink or whatever it is. You can have those presets so you can just quickly go grab it and drop it in and actually do multiple holes within the same feature. So that's a nice little addition there. So I will show you a little bit about that later on when we get into the system. Okay, sheet metal. Some of the things they've added there is the laser weld corner relief. So that was something that was maybe missing before. I mean, there was a lot of different corner relief hole or corner relief shapes before. They just added one so that it fits a little bit more of the rounded profile that's required when you flatten it, in order to, when it's bent, to have a nice little weld seam there in order to seal that gap up once the part is formed. So that's where that laser weld came in. There's also now the ability to do, before it was just kind of, you created your sketch and then you wanted to create a flat wall one way or the other, a face wall. Now you can actually do bidirectional, so kind of a mid-plane if you're creating that profile and you need to extrude it both ways to create your overall thickness. All right, we added some stuff into tube and pipe and also into frame generator. On the tube and pipe side, if you're doing hydraulic stuff, the goal is always to use the same size hose that's already out there. I know when I worked on construction equipment, they got hydraulic hoses everywhere, and over time, if you don't try to utilize the same parts, you eventually have thousands and thousands of parts, and maybe they're only a half-inch difference in length. So obviously, some of those we could have gotten rid of by kind of commonizing, the trying to use a hose that's already in place. We're already ordering that one. It's already got a bin out in the factory for it. So why not try to utilize that? So it's kind of difficult sometimes when you're routing flexible hoses, but now you've got the ability to lock the hose length and then just update it to whichever length you want to give it and then just see, okay, maybe you can still flex it a little bit, grab some of the control points, move it around so it doesn't look like it's going to be kinked. And obviously you can do some checks on that as well to see what the minimum radius, all that kind of stuff is on it. So that's kind of a nice thing to be able to fix that hose length, lock it, and then still be able to manipulate it to kind of make it move where you want to. Obviously, it still uses those splines and tries to route through whatever locations that you might want to put it through. Okay, frame generator down below, it just added some details in values and specific properties for where there's multiple end treatments, and put those into the custom property definition within your iProperty box. So that's it can be useful to pull those out or get that information from frame generator. All right, now obviously there's ways we can well, this is showing a couple things here on the Inventor ideas that were submitted by just your regular user. I know I've submitted a few out there. I'm not sure if any of them actually ever been implemented or not, but hopefully you're doing the same thing. And there's the idea station. It was kind of called at one point sort of a separate thing. Now it's just kind of in the forum. It's still sort of the Inventor ideas station, I guess people might call it. But that's a great place to submit ideas. Obviously, search for, before you submit an idea, it's always good to do kind of a quick search for it and just make sure that nobody else has put that idea out there yet already. But it's a great place to kind of collaborate as a whole community and invent. And Autodesk is always looking at those. You can vote up different ideas. So let me just show you that quickly. Actually, if you haven't seen that yet, it's kind of, let me go back one though. I do have that open here. Inventor ideas. So if you go out to the forums.autodesk.com, type, I think typically there's a separate idea section for just about every program or application that Autodesk has. So you just go down here to submit ideas. But if you scroll down, right now it's just got hot ideas selected, or you go to top voted. And if you find the idea that you had and somebody else maybe already put it out there, just go down here and give it a vote. Now, some of these you might already see too is being, well, so this, yeah, full use of multi-core processors. That's what we were talking about in Inventor 2019. So this one already has 897 votes, and you can see it's already listed as implemented. So that's where the 2019 they took that, and obviously I'm sure that's something we're thinking about. But obviously when that many customers and users submit that and say, hey, you guys need to start doing this, they're gonna listen. Okay, so keep that in mind. Submit ideas out here. That's a great way to try to get that put into the next let me just scroll down here a little bit more. Get back into that presentation. Okay, this is where we left off. So definitely take advantage of those. But a couple of things here I just wanted to point out. When you're using the insert command or a mate command, actually I think this is probably just with the mate on the left the way it looks. It used to be you didn't have the option, you just had kind of a flip one direction or the other. Now you have the option to do undirected. So that's the right most option there. So maybe you want to have a different constraint control the direction of that particular mate. So now you can just have it, you can do you facing one direction, facing the other direction, or have it undirected and allow another. So that maybe that's just more, it's going to be parallel at that point, but it doesn't necessarily tell you which direction it's got to be. On the right, there's a little checkbox now that allows us to lock rotation. So that's kind of more of the, hardware, nuts, bolts, stuff like that, fittings, where, you don't want to put in the extra effort to add another constraint, but you do want it locked down just to control your degrees of freedom. Sometimes if you're doing a degrees of freedom analysis, it's nice to know that your hardware is locked. And typically when it's fastened, it would be locked. So it gives you a more realistic, I guess, depiction of what your assembly is actually doing. So there's just a little checkbox in there, just locks the rotation when you're using an insert. All right, now you'll notice too, when you upgrade to 2019, there's an option now to migrate your customized settings and your application options. So I think AutoCAD had that for quite a while. When you install AutoCAD, I think it retrieved your old settings or migrated those to the current version. But a lot of times when you install a new version of Inventor, you kind of got to go back and transfer those over manually. So now it's got that, it brings it right with. So that's kind of, and you can do it later if you want, if you don't want to do it right away. And but if you've done a lot of customizations, it can be kind of annoying not to have those in there right away. Okay. There's also an option now to say customize schemas for, I guess they call it schemes. Yeah. Anyway, for your colors, you know, create your own. I've seen, it's funny, even on our training laptops, somebody will change the color of the background or whatever because it's what they prefer. So I typically have to, you know, a lot of times I have to reset those so that every computer looks the same. But you know, people have their own preferences, so this just allows for a little more flexibility there. Right, they've also added variable radial helical curves. So if you're creating kind of a spring, like in the upper right over there, where you're going to create a sweep, you know, throughout that curve, that's a thing they've added now, so you can get a little more flexible with those types of curves. And kind of another cool thing on the bottom left is the inverted fillet. So I think maybe a little more common with plastic parts, if you want to add a little more thickness around a corner, and instead of just making it a smooth round, you want to have it inverted. I mean, it's you know, maybe not as common as the regular round, but now you have the option. You can do the inverted, so you can see how it can both remove material and then also add material on a convex corner or concave corner. On the bottom right, you have automatic blending now has been added into the direct edit. So as you're moving edges, surfaces, it'll automatically blend with the geometry around it. So that can be kind of handy. You can turn that on and off with the check mark in that dialog box. Okay, kind of mentioned accessing the update a little bit earlier too. The desktop app is kind of showing up in the upper right. That's where we can now install latest updates as well as the new versions. And then within Autodesk account, so those desktop apps, as you see those new updates come out, it'll show kind of a plus sign next to it. Typically, it's just stored in your tray on the bottom right in your Windows 10 or Windows 7, I guess. I'm still using 7 on mine, but eventually it'll be upgrading that. So I'm sure a lot of you have already. Just to point out, you know, some of those updates have actually fixed. If you're still seeing any type of issue with Windows 10, you know, it's been out long enough now. Autodesk has got a lot of those sort of buggy things worked out. If you saw that, one of them was when you're working with constraints or mates, I believe there was sort of a little delay there when that dialog box was popping up. That was a Windows 10 update issue that caused that. So I think the latest, if you're using the latest version of 2018, that should be resolved, and also with 2019, obviously that should be fixed as well. But your Autodesk account is still probably the best way to go download software. That way you can kind of control it too, is a little bit, if you're sort of the CAD administrator and not just allow everybody to update all the time. If you want to test that stuff out before you upgrade, it's probably a good thing to, you know, to kind of roll those out as a group, you know, sort of on the same version. And then also, if you've got multi-user licenses, you can generate your license file there from your Autodesk account. And I kind of mentioned this already too, but make your voice heard. You know, use the forum, use the idea station, Inventor ideas. The forum is a great place to see, you know, if you have maybe a potential issue, somebody else might have already had it. So you go out to the forum, search that. Obviously, contact us. We've got kind of a long, a good database full of, you know, things that we've dealt with in the past and how we resolved it. So we fall back on those to try to, you know, obviously pass along the solutions to other customers. So if you can't find it out on the net, you know, let us know. We'll definitely help you get to a solution. Okay, before we jump into the questions, I'm just going to get into Inventor here, and let's actually take a look at some of these new enhancements. Okay, now we're sitting at about 9:38, so I'll try to spend just a little bit of time here. I'm going to open up a couple parts, assemblies, and just run through a few of those changes. First one we want to take a look at is just kind of again, it's some of that multi-core stuff in the background that is, you know, sped up the processes, you know, as far as modifying, you know, doing some edits within an assembly, stuff like that. So and then also 3D sectioning, you know, all creating drawings, those types of things have all been, the speed has been improved there. So even just rotating and zooming and panning in large assemblies, I realize this isn't the largest assembly. I mean, and I've got a lot of sub-assemblies. I don't know, there might be, you know, 100 parts in here, something like that. So you're dealing with probably, you know, larger assemblies in this, obviously. If you get into, you know, some of those large, you know, whatever types of products you might have. But what I wanted to show is just kind of the, you know, the speed, I guess, of activating a sub-assembly. And again, you know, if you do this on a larger scale, you should see this be much quicker. So not have that little delay and see the circle spinning while it's trying to activate an assembly. I know a lot of our customers have kind of, you know, when they've got those large patterns, you know, and large, just, you know, thousands of components, you know, that can be, it can slow things down. I'm not saying it's going to be always real, you know, instantaneous. You know, you can imagine with those large assemblies, there's a lot for it to compute, but it should be better with the multi-core processing. All right, so that's just kind of activating these different components, you know, seeing the speed there, and let's go back and activate, you know, so and then also we talked about 3D sectioning. If I go out to my view here, so that's still in the same spot as far as creating a section, but if you click on, you know, a surface here and then just drag it in, you should see that be a little bit quicker as well, creating those 3D sections within an assembly. All right, so let's go ahead and end that section view. Let's take a look at the drawing view creation too, just to kind of, and again, this isn't anything real new, but if I go create a drawing and we want to, you know, start dropping this in there. Obviously the way to place drawings are pretty much the same way. We can go base view, and you've got the view cube, you know, that came in, that might have been like 2016 or something like that, I think, where they added the view cube for, you know, placing your specific, the views, the front view, whichever view you want to start with. So I really do like that. And now you kind of have a little bit more of a, you know, real time, I guess, see where your drawing view is going to be created. So we can drop those in over here, put in your, and you just, I don't know, to me, again, it might be a matter of milliseconds sometime, or even seconds, but when you're placing these, it does get kind of annoying sometimes when it isn't fast. Now I think it has definitely made some improvements on placing drawing views, and then there my wireframe, or the, I guess, headline removed. Okay, so just to kind of show that a little bit, and maybe, you know, obviously test it out on your stuff. Once you have 2019, hopefully you'll be able to see the difference, the improvement there. All right, let's take a look at some iLogic stuff. I'm going to go back to my assembly. And just to kind of point out, you know, the way that works with selecting a surface and being able to, so I'm going to, let's see here, let me grab maybe a surface within, no, that's not the one I wanted. Let's go back to the arm. So we want to maybe select this top surface as a mate, and, you know, and we want to utilize that one to, you know, put it at an angle maybe here. So we want to make sure we're at a specific angle between the boom and the arm here. So let's go, this is the weldment here. So in order to get into the surface, I'm just going to activate, you know, this component, and we can grab that surface, right click on it, and then here's where the assign name is. So we go assign name and just give that maybe top mate surface, something like that. It actually drops in, you know, gives you the heads up, here's what you called it, so top mate surface. So maybe that's what I know I'm going to, you know, apply to this one. So within the assembly environment, let me go back and activate my entire assembly here. So that gets kind of stored with them. If I go back up to, say, this one, well, let's just kind of leave it as one. I'm not going to follow through and you know, create the entire logic. I just wanted to kind of show how that's placed, and let's just go into iLogic here. So there's an iLogic tab or browser now, and here's my rules. So if I right click, let's see, let's go new add rule. We'll call this one, you know, maybe boom, arm, angle. And maybe we want to have that placed off of, you know, potentially off of a property. Maybe we've got a property saying, like, you know, medium extension, full extension, stuff like that. We can just, base these off of a property. But so this is kind of your iLogic interface. On the left are all the, you can add properties, change the, using part number description. All these things can help control how your model is built. And as far as the way that used to work, you can see it says components classic. So it used to be kind of an is active. So, or you can, let's see, yeah, is active. So you could turn that either true or false to turn on and off a component. But now they've added these ones here with iLogic assemblies components to either, add a component, delete a component, manage these a little bit separately. So these are some of the things they've added in here as far as working with your components. And the other one, let's see, where's that one? That's the, I guess, adding a constraint. Is that under, let's see, add features, add rectangulars, components. Oh yeah, here's the classic one. Here it is. So the relationship's adding, these different types of constraints, adding an insert constraint. And when you do that, so if I add an insert constraint here, it'll show that it's an insert. You can grab, you just got to go grab the part number, and then over here where it says entity, that's where the word can be brought in from the geometry. And I think that's a separate. You can see. Well, I guess we know what it's called because we named it. But let me see here. So there's some of the different relationships that are already in there. If we go, it's not showing up there. I think you could use the search to go find it. If I just cancel out of this quickly, if you forgot what the name was, let's go save that. It's not ready to run quite yet, so it's telling me it's got to get out of here. But I believe that can be showing up here. Let me see. External rules. I don't know if I have that in there quite yet. I thought there was, well, there should be a section, I'm not seeing it there, but as far as the rule, or sorry, to go grab that surface, obviously the naming it gives us, where you don't have to go try to figure out where it's at, but, you would be able to just enter that in here, what would we call it, top mate surface, and it would recognize that. So it must be, yeah, those should be shown in here somewhere. Yeah, I guess I maybe don't have that turned on right now or something, but at any rate, naming the surface, we should be able to bring those in, and then the other iLogic stuff has been added here. So instead of trying to go through and create a whole, I guess there are some good videos out there. Like I said, we've got a 2-day class, but it is hopefully, not as daunting or I guess maybe, what's the word I guess I'm looking for, is maybe intimidating anyway to try to go through and do some of this stuff. If you look at even just applying, model parameters here, adding those in as far as, maybe a certain, you can create user-defined parameters up in your manage and have those drive, bring those user-defined parameters in, and then just drop in dimensions. So it shows you the D100 here. If you use like an if-else statement, you just can click on the option here and drop it down in here, and then say if, say D108 equals, 100, then you enter in your component. Maybe then you delete your component down here or add something. And so it's really just about clicking on the right option, and then it fills in the code that you need. That's kind of the idea there. So, all right. Let's see. If you want to see more about that, let us know. If you haven't used iLogic or would like to see more of it, let us know. Obviously, that wasn't a real intense demo of that. It's just kind of showing what the interface looks like and some of the enhancements that they built in. Okay, let's close out of this, and I'm going to jump into cancel that. I'm going to go out and grab another assembly here. We'll take a look at a couple of the other enhancements. So this one uses some tube and pipe, and if you haven't used this or in the past, I mean, maybe you're creating your hoses with sweeps or something like that, creating a curve and then a sweep, and that can work, but boy, the tube and pipe application is much more user-friendly, and it's just built to be able to do flexible as well as, not flexible hoses. You can see we've got pipes here as well that are not flexible. So routing those, adding your joints, whatever fittings you've got, the tube and pipe environment is great for that. And if you don't have it, you don't see it in there, you should have it. It's not like it's an extra add-on. If you go up here to your add-ins under tools, you should see the tube and pipe. Okay, here we go. Routed systems. So make sure that's loaded in order to be able to see the interface. So what I'm going to just go show is like this particular hose here is real close to. You can see how it's kind of routed. Let's say that's real close to an existing length, and we want to be able to utilize that. Or maybe all these are kind of similar lengths, but they're all right now because we let the system define the routing with splines. They're all a little bit different. We want to make sure that the right size hose will work. So I'm going to go down here and activate run number 1. We'll expand that out, and let's see. Just got to make sure I find the right hose. That's the one. You can see it's highlighted up above, so I'll expand that. And in order to modify the hose routing, this is kind of the route right here, part of the hose. And you can see there's flexible hose. Each of these have fittings on the end, so that's all kind of built into the system here. You can see the fittings on each end here gets built into this environment when you're creating these hoses. But I'm just going to double click on the hose section, and that brings me into the route tab. And if I go to hose length on that, just saying I got a license borrowed there. So here's the current length of the hose, and you can use this little dragger to increase or decrease the hose length. But let's say I need it to be, I don't know, 600. So if I go lock hose length, looks like that, and maybe so you can see it locked it out there. Right now it's at, so it's maybe I'll say 620 millimeters. But if I go apply on that, it did flex it to change that. We can still move some of these. It's just gonna, notice how it flexes the rest of the hose if I move this up. So if we're gonna try to, get this to be maybe a little more, maybe in the right position, I don't know, something like that, or move this one up so it isn't so kinked right here. You can move that around, but notice the hose length is actually staying the same. Well, let's say, I've got the hose already in my system that's at 620, so I can just double click on the length there, go 620, and you can see just kind of flex it out a little bit to get so that length will work. And now you can kind of you can add control points, stuff like that, to kind of smooth things out. But that extra length, I mean, maybe in the long run that's going to save us a lot of money not to have another part number, another hose. Even though it's a little bit longer, it's still going to be cheaper to use this longer hose potentially. So as soon as you're all done there, we hit finish route. And now our hose is updated to that length. So kind of a nice little addition there if you're using any type of hydraulics or even air, whether it be water, air lines, anything flexible like that, that environment's pretty good. Okay, so let's say we want to test out this design, but we're not sure yet if we like this maybe the frame on the bottom. So what we're going to do there is send that out to, maybe we've got a different shop that's making the base for this, or maybe we've built some of these in the past, or we want to see, send it out to our prototype shop to say, okay, what have you guys done in the past? Is this frame, the most efficient? Or maybe do we need this bar in the middle? Whatever it might be. So we're going to open that up. They don't have, or maybe it's a customer or a supplier that we're getting this from, and maybe they don't have Inventor. Maybe they're using something else. We just want to share this with them. That's where the collaborate. So up on top here, you got the collaborate tab. If you haven't seen Configurator 360, that's an else. It'd be fun to show you that. That's more of a kind of almost customer facing. You can upload your designs and have them choose which options they want. And using iLogic and some other tools, you can really make Configurator 360 a powerful way for them to kind of empower the customer to select what they want, and then honestly just automatically generate quotes and stuff like that too. But what I wanted to show you was the shared views here. So we go to shared views, brings up my little interface over on the right. You can see the shared views that I already have. It's just getting into my account. So here's I've already shared this one out. So in order to share, we just go new shared view and give it a name. Let's call this one frame version 1. And we can hit OK or hit share on that. It's processing that. It's going to kick it up to our Autodesk view account. And there it is. So there's a copy link for that as well. We can view it in the browser or copy the link and email that to somebody, give them access to it. So if I just go view in browser, I'll just kind of show you. If you haven't used this Autodesk view, I don't know, I like it. It's slick, it looks good. It's really simple to use for just about anybody. You don't need any CAD training really to utilize this. So if you send this out to your customer, this is what they'd be able to see. And you can go to the home. I don't know why the home view is kind of in a weird angle there, but you can rotate around, kind of check this thing out, zoom in, zoom out. There's a nice little explode. Let's see, that's over here in the end, and then you can just kind of drag the bar to explode this thing out. So that can be kind of handy to see exactly how many components are in there. It's just kind of a dragger for that. You can add comments to it, over on the right, store with that. There's save different views within a major assembly. Obviously this one isn't not a ton of components here, but you can kind of get the idea. There's a section, you can do sectioning, zoom pan, all that stuff. So very easy to use for just about anybody. All right, and that does just get stored with over on the right here. You can see now I can go back. If you need to create a link for it eventually, you can copy a link again, you can delete it eventually, and these should have a 30-day, expires in 31 days is kind of the window that if you don't want to just store it out there forever, obviously. Okay, couple more things to take a look at. Let's go back to this guy. Let's pop open. Let's take a look at the hole tool. Now this one already has some holes in it. I'm just going to delete those. Oops. And let's say that's not the hole pattern or the size that we want. So notice here, there's 4 different holes that had to be created there. So I'm going to delete that. Let's get rid of this plane. Just unhide that or turn the visibility off. So a couple of things I want to do here. I'm going to put in some rounds or fillets, I guess. And if just like before, you select the fillet here. You can, put those in as we always have. If I hit apply on that though, now there's also the inverted fillet. So if I go inverted fillet and pick, say, some different edges here, you can see it fills in that material. Maybe that's a little bit large. Let's take that down to maybe 0.125, something like that, and apply that. You can see it's creating different fill tools, but also has a different little icon there for those inverted ones. So you can see that added material there to give it maybe a little more strength or whatever in that corner. But then also on the top here, you can do the other inverted edges. So depending on which surface you select here, or which edge I mean, you can do let's just hit OK on that. So just another tool. Maybe it doesn't come up that much, but definitely. I know that certain customers are going to like that ability. Now with creating the holes, let's start that hole tool. You start the hole just like we did before, but now it's got a little palette here that comes up, and you can snap that on, kind of dock it on the left if you want, or move around. And again, you can create different presets, but we can just pick. If we go around and say, okay, let's say we want maybe a clearance hole for a certain type screw, and let's pick the size here. I'm not sure what we're dealing with as far as the size goes, but and just determine your presets, and then we can start picking where we want to place it as well. So as far as placement, go up here, maybe place it on that right at the center of so you pick the placement surface, and then you can click right on to your reference. So this is going to be at the center of that. And over here again, we'll place the next one. there's our surface reference, and then maybe pick an edge there to place it at the center of that. So real slick, I mean, to just place multiples, you know, and then here if you want to use, say, you know, some references to give it a dimensional linear hole. So it's real intuitive. You know, it's just, you pick your surface to place it, and then pick your references to place it after that, or your dimensional kind of XY, or maybe a curved surface if you want to put it at the center like I did there. So you want to take that up, maybe just a little bit larger. I guess we already placed that, so that one's just moving on to the next one. And you can go back and pick each individual one within in order to you know, up the size of it or whatever. So we'll hit OK there. I mean, and notice it's just in one, and it puts the internal sketch with it. So just one feature. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that and see a lot faster capabilities there when placing holes. Okay. I think, you know, as far as some of the key things, I know we're right at 10 o'clock, so I went a little bit long on the those yet, so I think we'll just open it up to questions now. Obviously, if you want to test out some of the other stuff, you know, have at it. If you need help upgrading Inventor, you know, feel free to reach out to us. We do Vault Inventor upgrades for a lot of our customers. Maybe you don't have you know, an internal IT person to manage that whole process, and you don't want to, you know, have a bunch of downtime for your own team. So we'll try to help you make that process really efficient. There will be a survey after the presentation today too, so feel free to fill that out. Let us know what you'd like to see more of next year, I think is one of the questions there. So I'll take a look at the list of questions here now and see if I can help. So I got a question here from one customer asking about, will iLogic be able to run totally independently of Microsoft Excel? I believe it does. I will double check on that though and get back to the user who asked that. I'm also using Microsoft Office 365 on this computer. So as far as how iLogic works, I think you can utilize Excel to import certain things if you need to use that to assist with it, but I don't think it's necessary or I don't think it's critical in order to use iLogic, but I'll double check on that and get a confirm anyway with Autodesk. And another question here. Let's see. So the color coding on the animations, can you customize that? Build your own legends? That's a great question too, and I'll contact that person. I'm not aware of a way to, I mean, outside of using the API to maybe add your own colors in there. I think right now it's, you know, it's got green for, you might be able to change the colors, but as far as customizing your own interface for that, you know, I think it's a little more locked in as far as fully constrained, not constrained, or unconstrained. But I will double check into that too and get an answer back. Let's see. Okay. And it says, when upgrading from 2017 to 2019, of issues with the profiles we have already loaded in Frame Generator. And that's another one. I don't believe so. I think that especially with the you know, the migration capabilities, I guess that's more of the application options and customizations, which the frame generators, I guess depending on where those get stored, I'll double check into that one as well and get back to that customer. But I believe it should transfer over. Typically the storage areas for those types of customizations doesn't really change from version to version. Obviously templates, it's always good to open those and save those back as the latest version, so you don't always have to hit like update on the assembly or whatever else. But you know, most of those, it should look to the same spot. I believe that uses like an XML file for the frame generator, but I'll double check and confirm on that one as well. making some notes here on those, and I think that looks like that's it for questions. So if you have anything else, feel free to reach out to me. I guess I'll pop open here. I guess my email address is not shown on here, but it's emailer@go-apply.com. So feel free to send any other questions you may have, and look forward to seeing you in the future webinar. So thanks again for attending Applied Day.